So it's, when I started, I had nothing like this in mind. It was a very simple thing that I was doing. I had asked my mum, tell me about your childhood in Sindh. And the reason is because nobody in the family knew anything about what life was like in Sindh. Nobody ever spoke about it. So at that time, she agreed, and I said, I do this as a profession. I work with people to help them write their memoirs. And I said, we'll do this for the family. And so she was very sporting. She'd come and sit down in front of me and start talking. And she was 13 years old when partition took place, and I was really astonished by the extent of detail that she'd retained 65 years, and without saying a single word. No discussions, no reminiscences. She remembered the date on which their ship arrived in Bombay as a 13 years old, which I was really fascinated by. But apart from that, there was things that she was telling me about, like, for example, my grandfather was a lawyer, so she had some vague memories of his high-profile cases. And I just thought, this is so fascinating. It's a very big story, and it's never been done before. So I thought, let me make it a bit more than just my mom's story. And I started looking for information to give me a context. Now, where will I go? I'm an independent, just somebody who sits at home and does stuff. University libraries aren't even open to me. But even if they were, there isn't much. But I was extremely lucky because a friend of mine introduced me to Nandita Bhavnani. And Nandita had already done so much work by then. She had an enormous collection of relevant books, and she was extremely generous. I visited her. She gave me a whole lot of books to take home. And then, when I went back, she gave me more. When she was coming to Pune, she brought more. And that's how it started. I just completely relied on Nandita, and I was extremely lucky because she had that all with her. She was like a center of Sindh studies, For me, it was really invaluable. Nobody else has that. Even if I was to go to, which I later discovered about, the Indian Institute of Sindhology in Gandhidham, and that's not so accessible. Later, so I started off like this, but after that, a few years later, I have a friend who's a journalist, Naresh Fernandez, and he is, at that time, he was also working on a book, and he told me about archive.org. And this was way back, years and years ago before. Now everybody knows. So that's where I got, the British writers on Sindh and things like that. Now it's easier, but because there are more sources online. And, the other thing that happened was that after my book was published by Oxford University Press in Pakistan, I began getting invited to conferences, and that gave me, that introduced me to other scholars, and they shared their work with me. And that's how it happened. That's my entire base, actually, at the moment. So it actually happened, the first book was, I had to do it myself because, as I said, my mother remembered the date on which her ship arrived in Bombay. And at that time, my mom was, how old was she? 78, I think. And I didn't want to delay, going to a publisher and waiting for years. I had to do it, and I decided I'm going to get it done on the 14th. I'll get the book out on the 14th of November. And we did that, we had to work very fast. My daughter did the cover, and, I learned in design, and I made the pages myself. And then we put it out. We had a family party on the 14th of November, 2012. And, invited, obviously, her siblings, but also these cousins whom I'd never really met or anything, vague names, because she was telling me about them while talking about the book, and I got the sense of how families had been scattered because of partition, and, So every inch of the way there's been that learning and the sense that nobody knows. And, it's really, even today, I find that the Sindhi story, for some reason, is not attractive to a general, now it's becoming a little better. There are more writers, but all these years, at least 10 years, until very recently, you couldn't get a publisher. And that's the reason I started publishing. I was very fortunate that after I published my book, that same book was picked up by Oxford University Press for, in Pakistan, which, put me into the library circuit, which was very, very fortunate. Then after that, I translated Rita Shahani's book, Tales from Yerada Jail. But that also, I thought it was a really good book as a history book, and especially for younger readers to understand that history is not something static. You talk to like 6 people, you'll get 6 different views of the same event. I thought that was really fabulous. So when I say I translated it, I should also clarify that I don't read Sindhi myself, and I can't even understand extremely well. But because Rita was there and she would read it to me, and we would discuss it, and that's how I did that translation. So that's how it started. Then people started asking me, will you publish my book? And then I did. And especially because I was lucky, I got very good quality work, like Murli Melwani. He is a businessman, but before that he was a professor. He was professor of English in Nankardev College in Shillong, and always been a writer. And he's traveled as a businessman, as a salesman, and his fabulous stories set in the Sindhi diaspora, which you can't imagine. I mean, it takes you into the life of the diaspora. He calls it a gift of my travels. And it's a gift to all of us because, he's taking us into all these different countries where Sindhis, they have a certain lifestyle, there's certain similarities, a very strong similarity in many ways, but also so different because of the geography. Then I did Shakuntala Bharwani's book, which was memoir. Then I did Sushil Gajwani. I'm sure I've done a few more. I'm just telling you a few off the top of my head. I definitely would want to continue. Right now I'm working on Mohan Gyani's translations of Kalyana Advani's books, which I'm really enjoying. I'm hoping to get those out, and yes, I'm waiting. Now my problem as a publisher is I don't know, I can't sell. I can publish the books, I'll give you books that are as good as any book anywhere in the world in terms of quality of language, in terms of the quality of production. But what are we going to do after that, I'm not that good at selling. I can put it on Amazon and I can talk about it on social media, but the numbers are not there. And that could be because Sindhis are not really a hugely reading population. And then again, as I said, the Sindhi story, for some reason, even though it's such a fascinating story, doesn't seem to be, people haven't figured that out yet. I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, once it does, then everybody will be lining up to get those manuscripts. But for the time being, I'm just churning them. I mean, just not churning because it's not been that many, like one a year or so. But I'm going to keep doing it until it all takes off and then somebody else will. I think writers, you can't tell them what to do. People will write what they want to write, what's inside them, what's their context, their imagination. So in terms of Sindh, my last book which is actually my most favorite book, and I have not unfortunately made any efforts to sell it. It's called Losing Home, Finding Home. And it is, I call it the culmination of my last 10 years of research, because it packs everything into a nutshell. And the point was to write this very important piece of Indian history in a way that children will enjoy it. So it's written in small pieces, short stories, very simple language and illustrations. And I was so lucky I got this artist to work with me. All I said is I want it to be historically authentic. So obviously I had to give him the references, and he had the skill to do it. And also that I want people to be recognizable, whether it's Nehru or Gandhi, or whether it's from, somebody's grandfather from their album. If anybody knew that person, they should be able to identify him or her. And he did that. So that book is there. At some point when I get my act together, I will, make it a little more prominent. It's like really very unknown. I think in terms of what we need, like Sushil Gajwani's book, which came out of the Kolhapur Valivade camp, I was really fascinated because I never heard of this Sindhi refugee camp. You know, if you look at, we all refer to this list from UT Thakur, which, after partition, there was a list of refugee camps. So we all know, which the camps were. And suddenly there's this Valivade which had 5,000 people. How could we not know? I think that's one of the aspects of the Sindhi story. It's happening, but because of that force, the forceful scattering, the violence that was done so silently and without drawing blood. These are the kind of things that have happened, things have just flown under the carpet, and we have to find them, we have to take them out, and whatever it is, there are people all over. People have to pull things out, from wherever they can, and write about them. And I also think, honestly, though as a reader and as a writer, I do think that we need to look more at online information, producing information that is easily available online. I think that really will go a longer way than just looking at a person anywhere in the world who's interested in a good story. That's all. So what I'm giving you is a fabulous story. It's unknown, it's full of mystery and glamour and, unexpected things and very brave, resilient people. So go for it. I mean, there are heroes and heroines and they've done things that you don't know about. So get those books.